Guys, I'm back at it again. I'm going to haul this carburetor off and have a look inside. You guys are more than welcome to come along. To get this carburetor off, this little CRF 100, it's a Phillips screw for the air intake, the tube that goes back to the airbox. I already have this undone. Two 10mm nuts on the studs that hold the carburetor to the gooseneck for the intake. I'll get this taken off and we'll come back and probably unscrew that slider cap and bring the carburetor over to the bench and see how dirty it is. So I disconnected the fuel line. That wraps around the backside of the carburetor. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the throttle slider cap. I don't know if you guys can smell that, but it's some pretty stale fuel on the go here. Usually if you haul this out and it's green, that's a really good indication of fuel gone bad. Yeah. So after a bit of wiggling, we got this ready to almost come out. Here we go. You can see the choke, lever. Yeah, let's bring this over to the bench and make a mess. Guys, we made it over to the bench. Cleared off a little section. My plan is to drain the bowl. As you can see, this flat top screw here, I loosened that and routed the overflow drain line into a plastic bottle. Some of you are going to say that that looks like mixed gas, and it is because there was gas already in the bottle from one of my other projects. We kind of turn the carburetor so you can see the choke is here on the side of the carburetor. When you operate the choke, basically it's doing exactly that. It's choking the engine, starving it for air, allowing more fuel to get into the combustion chamber, which in turn will make it easier to start. So on this carburetor, it's just a 3-step choke. You can see by moving the choke lever, all it does is in turn move the butterfly on the side, or in the inside of the carb. A lot of people find carburetors very intimidating. Once you know basically the principles of how they work, they're pretty much all the same. You have another screw on the side that's usually in line with the cylinder that the slider slips down into. This is basically a pin that goes through the slider, or goes through and hits the slider and matches up with a recess in the slide that's on an angle. So the more you screw this in, that pin down there goes up against this angle, and it moves the slider up and down in the carburetor, and that in turn opens up the airway in there, and that will increase your idle speed. Give me a minute and I'll haul the bottom off this carb and we'll see what kind of junk is in there. Alright guys, I got the carburetor bowl off. I had this apart and realized the camber wasn't on, so stuck it back together just because I wanted to show you how this actually comes apart. So I don't know if I mentioned before, but fuel comes in right here through this spigot, goes right up through the center of the carburetor and flows through the needle and seat. Once the bowl is full, Oh, move the choke lever out of the way. So your float hangs down like that. Once the bowl fills up, pushes the float up, which closes the needle and seat. The problem that I'm having is the needle and seat is not making a seal. So the fuel keeps on coming even when the floats are up. The fuel level rises and it goes above this tube. So the fuel goes down into the tube, then out through the drain circuit. So that's why it was spewing gas everywhere. You guys can see the little bit of crud down in the bottom. It's basically the old fuel turning a bit green. It's got a bit of gel to it. Anyways, I'll clean that up. Some parts cleaner should be fine. There is a pin that goes through that holds the float. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. So to remove that pin, I took a little small screwdriver, just poked it through. Pin comes out. Remove your float. Your needle will come out, and then that reveals the seat. So what's happening here is that this rubber tip on the needle, you can see it's kind of green with old fuel. Is this tip on the needle, the rubber tip, is not sealing down in the seat. So I'm going to give this a once over, give it a quick soak with carburetor cleaner, make sure the main jet, the pilot jet, all the passages are clear. Probably blow it out with compressed air and stick it back together. And we'll see what happens there. So guys, just to give you an example of leaving fuel in your bike for a couple of years, what it can do. Now this is not bad at all, but if you can see, the fuel is starting to gel, turn green, especially right there. So when cleaning these, you want to remove them from the carburetor, obviously. Take your main jet out and make sure that the tube is clear and that all of these little holes in the sides of the tube, they're all clear. So I do have some cleaning to do with this guy. You know, this one seems to be pretty clear, and I got some work to do here. But you know, the telltale sign of all of this is that that sweet smell that you get, and you can tell the green that's coming off. I'm not sure if the camera's focusing on this or not, but you know, I think you get the idea. You need this to be clear of any buildup of old varnished fuel. Got some cleaning to do. So guys, I kind of hesitated to show you exactly how I was going to clean these, but we'll go ahead and do it. This is at your own risk. Obviously, anything you see on the internet or YouTube is, you know, do at your own risk. But when I have clogged jets or such as these little holes in the side of this tube, I pick myself up one of these torch cleaning tips. The smallest size will fit these tubes nice, these holes. You run that through it. You want to pick a size that's not going to enlarge the existing hole. You'd be surprised on how much stuff will come out of that tube once you run this piece of wire through it. But yeah, this is a handy tool. Again, I stress you do not want to oversize any of the jets. You just want to pick the smallest size and clean the varnish out of them.